I think that I'll probably be reading some things that are very recent, very new, which is always a risk, especially with a large audience. And so I have a little Zen acorn for Bob Kaufman, kind of. You know, there's the little type of very short saying that's called a koan, a Zen koan, and they're often sort of enigmatic. Like, what is the sound of one hand clapping is probably the most famous. And these are given to the disciples, you know, by their mentors to sort of ponder and meditate. And so putting myself kind of in the position of being like a descendant or disciple of an older African-American poet who is, you know, actually deceased, and I never got to meet him. But he liked to play around with language, and he was interested in jazz, and he was interested in Buddhism and Eastern philosophies. And so the poem actually is a tribute to Bob Kaufman. It's called Zen Acorn for Bob Kaufman. A frozen Indiana corn, a frozen Indian acorn, a frozen in Diana corn, Afro-Zen Indiana corn, Afro-Zen Indian acorn, Afro-Zen in Diana corn, Afro-Zen Indiana corn, Afro-Zen Indian acorn, Afro-Zen in Diana corn, corn froze in Arizona for Canadian non-radiance. A narco doesn't faze an African. And this little thing is called Wipe That Simile Off Your Aphasia. As horses, as four, as purple as we go, as silverware, as it were, as heartbeat, as if, as cherries, as feared, as onion as I can, as oboes as anyone, as umbrella as catch can, as icebox as it was, as narcosis as could be, as hit parade as all that, as penmanship as it gets, as combustion as want, as fax machine as I can, as hallelujah as we can get, as dictionary as you like, as cyclones as hoped, as shadow as promised, as drinking fountain as well, as grass fire as myself, as mirror as is, as never as this. Now, I'm going to read kind of a longer piece. It's a prose poem. It's called Quality of Life. And this started out as a letter to a friend. I have a friend who lives in New York. And I kind of sort of ended up visiting her by accident because I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. So I had to stay over at her place. Anyway, so this was a letter to her. Does all dust turn grave in his nightmare of cloned sheep? Is Bo Peep losing sleep? Did the lamb march in, eat the dandelions? Is lamb chop an unnatural act? Hello, Dolly, have you any wool? Serious, serious, thick hats full of kinks, so don't forget to pack your Polar Tech. Last week we picked oranges, but the apple's still chilling. She might not be the cruelest fool, just a lame dame on a blip trip, her brain on spring break, a trick vacation, a fake date, a fluke, or just a flake. Was there then when it wasn't. She was left in the wrong. Nothing to see but a strung gallery of poetry inhibitions, her book on the table, nobody buying. Luck was there to take her in, a friend with a new look, a light blonde bob, a friend tending to the dying, one who lends money for books. She shows her the neighborhood paper bag and circles all her haunts. They sign for the wild child of yoga. They stretch out in a crowd. Mention money on the street and a hand will be extended. The mayor takes credit for the quality of life. Walk across the park from Charlie Parker. Eat sweet potato pierogies at Uppity Cafe. Look at other merchandise, a smattering of tribes. Unheard of march in which the men protest themselves. Callaloo and collards are equivalent, or banana is the same as plátano es. Narrative never is mere entertainment. To entertain is knowing how to be a woman. French theory suggests the best in women's writing are the men. Those star apple leaves along the sound of sunny Rollins River. Tina Turner set fire to her wigs so she could wear all burnt hair. Tourists flocked to strawberry fields where sheep grazed in erstwhile Seneca Village. No one gets agitprops from avant-garde. A-train from Cafe Reggio out of postcards. Hour and a half by subway to JFK. Bumpy return to port of lax security. As soon as I get that zip gun, your check's in the escargot. Now, this piece is the one of all of these that I've read that's actually been published somewhere. It's in this most recent issue of Callaloo, and this is also a prose piece. It's called She Swam On From Sea to Shine. It's kind of a tongue twister, the title, you know, that little tongue twister that we said when we were children. She sells seashells. She's in real estate. She sells seashells down by the seashore. And there's also an African-American folk genre that's called the toast, which is a kind of rhymed mini epic. And they're usually told by male members of the black community, boys and men. And they are often about kind of larger-than-life heroes, one of whom is called Shine, Shine being a generic and usually pejorative term for an African-American or someone who has a very dark complexion. And Shine is legendarily known to be one of the few survivors of the Titanic. Now, he was down in the hold of the ship shoveling coal, and he was the first to notice that the ship was in trouble and tried to tell the captain, and the captain, of course, left him, you know, said, go back and do your job and let me run the ship. So, you know, he makes several attempts, and then finally he gives up and says, I'm swimming home, which he does. He swims home to Harlem, and as a result, he's alive and the rest of them are dead. Now, so what I have done is to try to write that genre as a woman. I mean, there's a part of it that has to do with that genre of folk poems that are told by men. So I tap into that. However, another part of it is simply a kind of autobiographical writing that I'm doing. It actually came about because an editor of a journal, Callaloo journal, wanted to do a feature on my work, and they asked me for an autobiographical essay. And instead of writing an autobiographical essay, I wrote this little piece. And it does try to connect between autobiography and this folk tradition in a sort of indirect way. So, and also it's a very American piece because it's about people who don't stay in one place, they keep traveling, they keep moving. This was a part of my own childhood. My mother and my father divorced, and we moved as a result of that, and my mother was always trying to go to school and get more education and get better jobs and move from one bad house to one that would be a little bit better. So it's that kind of energy of moving from one place to another. And also, Shine is someone who is in motion. He's swimming fast, trying to dodge the sharks and get back to Harlem. She swam on from sea to shine. Hide and seek, where the tree decided to sleep was where she ran. She ran away with a ruckus. The baby girl was stolen by a tipsy woman came to take her, where they found her in the mud. She'd stolen a doll. Her doll got sick. She died. The brown doll from her father. The pink doll came from somewhere else. She had drowsy eyes like marbles. The rabbit was painted on the furniture in the room with pom-pom curtains. The pig slept at her grandmother's. The pig that ate money, not the country pig that ate molasses and sunglasses. Where her mother kept a canoe and paddle, where stiff lace stood in the city, not the country, where they fed their stinky sheep. Paper shell pecans climb high, sweet figs and green plums in forbidden backyards. She remembers sleeping on a train. She remembers a long sleep, rocking, rocking. She had her dress on all the way, asleep, diving into dreams, salty and warm like ocean, like broth. Another time she slept, she dreamed of rats. When she woke up, the kittens were all killed. We're in a photograph with a handsome man smiling. Seersucker suits are what to wear in summer. That other man, I don't remember, the one who made your hair fall. That's when the doctor said, "You need a root. You need your roots. You need another doctor who knows roots and will root for you." That's how we all got better. That's how we got to all your exes live in Texas, all the livelong day with the cowgirl you left behind. Those saxophone streets and scratchy sidewalks, those Baptist conventions, that steamy summer, the boy who threw tar on me, the boy who made me his tar baby, the one who broke my watch, knocked me down, pushed me over, the boy who threw rocks at me, the boy who lost his foot under the wheels of a train, the boy who bought me ice cream, the girl who was my friend, the girl who wanted to give me a kitten, the girl with burnt hands, the girl whose house was dark, the girl who never wore socks, the girl who said, "Poot on you." I had a ribbon in my hair. I was too proper and prissy. I must think I'm something. I must think she's nothing. In the beginning, we stay with the preacher. We sit sweating on the mercy seat. We hear the preacher shout. We feel the fire in this man who built the church that burned down, this preacher who read Nietzsche, this preacher who was a carpenter with bent nails, who was the father of the cowgirl who ironed his handkerchiefs, the big man who cheered at wrestling matches, who drove a dark Chevy, who wore white shirts stiff from the laundry, who sang, "There was a crooked man who had a crooked smile." She recalls a sixpence, a pig, a crooked little style. He knew a style could get them over. He knew a thing or two, and so did the lady who made crab cakes, the lady who fried scrapple, the lady with peach tree switches, who knew that a spigot was a faucet. Her chaise longue, her porte cochere, her chiffonier, She didn't want the cowgirl to be a boll weevil. She wanted us where we were, not in the garage. She wanted us in the church where everyone shouted. We started selling and counting, anything from earthworms and bottles to paper shell pecans. She saved green stamps and we ate pinto beans from dented cans. She found a house with bramble bushes. We found a lovely alley made dizzy circles. We found a house with attic rooms, a magic chef in the kitchen, and a genie to keep it clean. We kept moving until we moved the neighbors out. They ran to Runaway Bay. They hid at Hideaway Lake, those neighbors who were not neighborly, who didn't want us for neighbors. The nuns were smart teachers, but she didn't care for them. They didn't care for her and called her friend a gutter snipe. The nuns in their brick pan dulce magnolia convent, their virgin rose tortilla de maíz garden grotto, their carniceria Chapultepec chapel. These nuns don't talk Spanish, you could say French. Parlor fluent Frenchy, jumbo lying crawfish pie filling gumball. They taught girls to knit. They taught her to hit the piano. They taught all the girls to say, Hail, Mary, Fuller Grace, Dolores Whitchew, blessed art thou among women, blessed is fruit of the loom cheese whiz. Enemy, dull party, dull filly, dull spitter, shoe sanity. I am my mother's daughter who put me in the water to see if I could swim. My hair went back to Africa. I baptized thee, hiccup, hiccup, hiccup. High school was a bluster, she wasn't a bother. High school was a thick brick, she was knocked out. High school was too high, she was too low. High school was too low, she was too high. High school was too many schedules, she crashed. Who could remember the combination? High school was hormones, and hers were a moan. She wasn't a whore or a harmed one. No one was too harsh. High school was hot, she wasn't cool. She loved the books and not the boys. They moved too much, they blurred. Too many books on her head, her leaky calendar. Too much gossip, her unlocked locker. Too much mother, she wouldn't hop. She wasn't a case of textbooks, never that. She was a cartoon. She was a poem anyone would stutter trying to recite. After perusing all the pamphlets, she went where she had been, where she knew how. It was a place she knew she could, so big no one would notice, in a green location. She knew the uniforms, not the sunbathers. She kept her eye on the tower, rehearsed her sitting ducks. She believed the room was haunted, the furniture walked. Her friend had gone to a school where she misplaced her mind. She never found her friend again, her box of comprehension. There were new girls now, the ones who ironed tortillas and made beans drunk. They knew that sopa isn't soap, ropa isn't rope, and butter is meant to kill you. If only she could play bid whist, if only she could tell someone. If only she had only eaten cassava, not listened to so much jazz. If only she had a gospel voice, not a notebook full of Babylon. If only she had obeyed her mother, if only she could disobey. If only she hadn't been to prison to visit the afflicted. If whiskey were water and I were a duck. If you only knew, she wouldn't try to tell you. She got that piece of paper and ran with it. Somewhere she'd found a tongue she used gingerly. She spoke up, she didn't lie down. If she did lie, she made it a big one. She spoke for a wagon wheel, she got the grease. They paid her to be smart or dumb, it didn't matter. If they paid her, she could eat. If they didn't, she could go. She was always writing anyway, it didn't matter. She fell into a trance. That's how he took her with him where he went. And so she came along, and there she was. When he wanted to bust her, she wasn't in shock, there was warning. Instead of bursting, she ran. She got used to running. More paper, more pencils, more writing. She went everywhere she could. She went on a whim, on a limb. She whimpered. She slowed down. She settled. She got stuck. She came loose. She mended. She came undone. She repaired herself again. She shook her groove thing and got it on. She stepped on a pin. The pin bent. Good thing she got that tetanus shot. Time for a booster. When the ship went down, she wouldn't sink, had to swim. She brought her suit. She'd float like a jellyfish, sting like a man of war, or seaweed ain't salty. Water was her element, she swam on. Right through a tsunami, she cut with scissor kicks. She caught a wave, she got in a flap, she was flippant. From sea, she ran past shark teeth like shine. See, if I'm lying, I'm flying. From sea to shine, she swam on. The whales sang Celtic music. Dolphins frisked her. She was worked over and under. She let her mind wander. Let it roll and keep on rolling, on and on. Revolution is a cycle that never ends. Rumors of May made mermaids murmur. Plato opens utopia to poets on opiates. So since I guess there's more time, I'm going to read a few from this book of, this is the most recent poetry book. It's called Ease and Drudge. And it's kind of a never-ending poem, but it actually had to end, so it did. But why these blues come from us? Threadbare material soils, the original colored, pregnant with heavenly spirit. Stop running from the gift, slow down to catch up with it. Knots mend the string quilt of Kenty stripped when kin split. White covers of black material, dense fabric that obeys its own logic. Shadows pieced together, tears and all, unfurling sheets of bluish music. With all that rope they gave us, we pulled a mule out of the mud, dragging backwoods along in our strong blackward progress. She just laughs at weak-kneed scarecrow as rainbow crow flies over those ornery cornrows. Everlasting arms too short for boxers, leaning, meaning, signifying say what? Ethiopian breakdown, underbelly tussle, lose the facts, just keep the hustle, leave your fine-tooth comb at home. If your complexion is a mess, our elixir spells skin success. You'll have a peel, bewitched, be adored, hechizando con crema dermo blanque adora. What we sell is enlightenment, nothing less than beauty itself. Since when can be seen in the dark what shines hidden in dirt? Double Dutch darky, take kisses back to Africa. They dipped you in a vat at the wacky chocolate factory. Color we've got in spades. Melanin gives perpetual shade, though rhythm's no answer to cancer. Pancakes pale and butter can get rancid. The essence lady wears her irregular uniform, a pinstripe Kenty syncopation suit. She dreads her hair, sprung from lockdown under steel teeth pressed gang galleys, upstart crow's nests, eyes lashed half open, look of lust, bitten lips lick the dusky, wicked tongue hussy. Am I your type? That latest lurid blurb was all she wrote. Her highbrow pencil broke. Thank you very much. I don't want to be treated as a rock star, but I want people to read and enjoy poetry, not just mine, but there's lots of poetry. If a person people think they don't like poetry, they probably haven't seen enough poetry, because they're all different kinds of poets, writing in very different styles and forms. I mean, you can find just about anything in the form of poetry. And it's amazingly diverse. I mean, it's one of the most diverse forms that I can imagine. So I think people ought to understand that poetry is one of the ways that we feed our souls. I mean, that's what poetry means to me. If I didn't have poetry, my soul would shrivel and die. And I don't know if everyone realizes that.